Hello, guys. Welcome back to Average Joe Rants. Um, it's getting kind of chilly up here nowadays, so that's why for the past few videos I've been wearing this. It's a sweater. It's a hand-me-down, obviously. There's like a little hole there, but it's comfortable. It's warm, so. But anyway, today's video is going to be about a game series that I have been very familiar with, and has actually been my main game I've played. Excuse me, for a little while now. That game series being, of course, Assassin's Creed. Now, there's a lot that I could say about modern Assassin's Creed, I think, but what I really want to do with this video is, one, express my discontent at the cancellation of the Assassin's Creed game that was featured in the post-Civil War, ways it could have been improved to make it more palatable to the political climate, and obviously just to give Ubisoft a big middle finger. But let's start at the beginning here of how I became familiar with the series. Believe it or not, I was not one of those people who would just run into a game shop and buy a video game and just be like, oh man, this is great. No, I actually would get stuff like Nintendo Power, Electronic Gaming Monthly, and, well, in one of the magazines of Electronic Gaming Monthly, I would see a upcoming game called Crusaders. Yeah, Ubisoft. Yeah, Assassin's Creed. If I'm remembering correctly, but I believe it was just called Crusaders when it was being visualized. I think the original idea was that you were supposed to be a secret agent for the Crusader, for the side of the Crusaders, the Templars, and basically it would be set in the Crusade era, the 100 Years' War, essentially. But yeah, that's how I became familiar with Assassin's Creed. I didn't even know it was the same damn game until I actually bought Assassin's. Weirdly enough, when I went into Assassin's Creed or a game shop and saw Assassin's Creed, I'm like, oh fuck, that's the dude that was on the preview. So I bought it, and it was amazing. It was everything I kind of wanted it to be. Which is basically just like a Middle Eastern ninja, and it was great. It was Altair was like a really good protagonist, even if he had sort of the personality of a fucking robot sometimes. The sword play was really fun. Um, the assassin's blade, the thing with the thing that would be associated with that series specifically became like one of my all-time favorite weapons. No, my one of my dreams still to this day, despite all the hiccups the series has. Well, I call them hiccups; they're fuck ups. But despite all the hiccups that the series has gone through recently, I still want one. I still want a real working assassin's blade. Obviously, not to kill people. That's get that out of the way. Not to kill people, just to have, you know. But it would be cool to have one of those, honestly. I do know they made toy ones, but obviously those are just like shit. You know, it's not like the whole thing with like the wrist thing where it's like you put your wrist inward. I'll try to show it off here. You put your wrist inward, you know, and then you put it, put it outward. Oh, sorry. You put your wrist outward, the blade comes out. You put your wrist inward, the blade comes back in. Obviously, the toy ones do not do that. They're like a spring lock that you have to like readjust in order to get the blade to go down. But yeah, it was a really cool game. It basically, I mean, at the time, I played, I think, when I first got my 360, it was Assassin's Creed, Oblivion, and Mass Effect. And what a fucking lineup that is, honestly. It basically convinced me that not only was gaming about to get better, but that it could only go up. Boy, was I fucking wrong. Yeah. Um. Yeah, and I was also playing Fallout 3 at the time as well, and a lot of people are gonna point out, well, those don't line up. Well, I don't buy my fucking games when they come out. I buy them like 1 or 2 years after. So, same time I was playing Assassin's Creed, the same time I was playing Fallout 3, the same time I was playing Mass Effect, the same time I was playing Oblivion. Essentially, weirdly enough, I finished like Fallout 3 like 5 times. I only finished Oblivion once. It's a little weird. Sorry, random thought. So as I went through 2, which ended up being the best Assassin's Creed in the series, even to this day for a lot of people. Went through Brotherhood, Revelations, 3, 4, Rogue. You know, it's about Rogue where I think I started wanting. Well, it's 4 for one of them. I think it was Rogue in the other part. But I think it was like 4 where I started wanting a game set in Japan. I mean, it's obvious, right? I mean, the assassins are pretty much just ninjas. They use stealth. They kill people with swords and throwing knives, and like it's not that far off of a, you know, so the connection is there. So, but it was during Four's Freedom Cry that I actually wanted a Assassin's Creed set in a different era. And a lot of people at the time, like fans of the series like I was, they told me I was nuts, that would never work. I wanted one, I would play Freedom Cry. And, in that game, you play as the vice captain who stood by Edward Kenway's side. And he was a former slave. So he ends up joining the assassins near the end of 4. And you basically play as him in the DLC, like many years later. And you go around and you free slaves. You're wielding a machete, like a bamboo cutting machete, and a wheat cutting machete. And you free slaves. You get into ship battles with slavers. You kill slavers and all that. And I was like, this is such a cool fucking DLC. This is amazing. It just expanded upon this. It gave a little a little something after the fact. Like Edward Kenway's story was done, but that doesn't necessarily mean everybody associated with him's story is done. So, and for those of you who are wondering, I don't remember what the dude's name is. I want to say Awe, but I also might be fucking wrong. But yeah, it was fun. It really was fun. Obviously, I remember the character, then the character's name, and the stuff you did in DLC more than I do, again, the dude's name. But it was fun. So those are the two things. I wanted a game set in Japan, and I wanted a game set in the Civil War. Now, some of you who have watched to this point might be picking up what I'm about to throw down. Assassin's Creed Shadows. A dream for many an Assassin's Creed fan, made into a complete and utter cultural nightmare by the woke activists who made it. The same activists who did not do their research one fucking bit about how the Japanese actually worked back then, caused a shitstorm not only in Japan but here over cultural inaccuracy, historical accuracy, and basically what I would like to call profiteering off a black man's not so well documented life in Japan. Let's start with that first one. the inaccuracies. It should be worth noting that there are a lot of traditions in Japan. There's a lot of stuff that they hold dear. Certain traditions will seem archaic compared to a lot of the stuff that I think a lot of Americans would be willing to deal with, but the Japanese simply see it as normal. I'll give a great example right here. Women are not allowed to sumo wrestle. The reason being is that it is seen as a great omen and a curse when a woman steps upon a manly stage, such as sumo wrestling. It is so forbidden, in fact, that if a woman even steps foot in the arena, they purify it, they cancel the fight for another day, and they purify the entire area with salt. With sacred salt. Again, it's archaic, but it's something that is well respected in Japan. It is something that, to this day, is still done. Now, once again, some of you might be picking up what I'm about to throw down, but one of the companions you can get in Shadows in ancient Japan, the game that is set in ancient Japan, is a female sumo wrestler. As you might expect, this caused some shit. Particularly among the sumo wrestling, community. Let's go with another one. Did you know that in Japan, there are reenactments much like we have Civil War reenactments in America? However, these reenactments, in order to, I don't know why they do it, but they come up with their own flags. They come up with their own flag designs. But essentially, they're reenacting the battles of the samurai with different flags. Just to not piss anybody off, I guess. I'm not totally clear what the reason is on that, but the flags are copyrighted. They are protected by Japanese law, so nobody can steal them. What does Ubisoft do? Not only steal them and put them in their game, but also make an entire fucking art book essentially stealing the designs of these reenactors. As you might expect, caused a lot of shit, and not only that, but end up causing quite a few lawsuits to the point where they tried to fight it so hard for some reason. I have no idea why. They tried to be like, oh, well, we'll take them out of the game, but we're not taking it out of the art book. And basically more lawsuits followed after that statement. They're like, well, fuck, I guess we gotta take it out of the art book and make an entire new art book. So basically, because they didn't do their research to make sure these flag designs were not copywritten, they essentially lost tons of money for no reason, and lost even more when they decided not to do it in the first fucking place. Not to remove the flag designs in the first fucking place. Let's go with another one, another example. Did you know that in the temples in Japan, the lanterns there are known as sacred lanterns? They are not to be touched, and they are not to be cut up or damaged. To do so will actually get you sent to prison for a very, very long time. The only people allowed to touch them are the monks who live in those temples. What does Ubisoft do? Not only allow you to touch them with your character, but also cut them up with your sword. You probably are going to guess what I'm going to say next. Caused a lot of shit. So you get at this point the point I'm trying to make when it comes to cultural insensitivity in this case. They basically did no research. They kept doing shit that pissed off the Japanese, pissed off players who did greatly respect Japanese culture, pissed off people who greatly respect Japanese culture, and whenever it would happen, they would be like, fuck you. That female sumo wrestler, despite the fact that she would not be allowed to do that, still in the fucking game. Hell, and the only two things that would have been, well, the change was the fact that they got the flag designs taken out of the game because they lost them a shit ton of fucking money in lawsuits, and the fact that the Sacred Lantern thing was changed so you couldn't cut them or even go near them. Okay, let's go with another thing. Let's start with the historical inaccuracies. It should be known that when it comes to Assassin's Creed, that it prides itself on sort of a Forrest Gump sort of dealio, right? You have these historical events happening as they did. Like in 3, there's a bunch of battles that were actually fought in the Revolutionary War that your assassin is a part of. Obviously, in real life, that's not the case. But that's the thing here, is it's basically just like a Forrest Gump situation. It's this conspiracy in the shadows between these two groups that have fought through the centuries. So the thing is like, to make sure that nobody just points and goes, hey, that's not correct, they have to do their research. They have to do, a lot of shit to make sure these things happen the same way in history while also having the assassin as a part of it. A lot of the shit in 2 happens. The Rodrigo Borgia actually does become the fucking Pope. Rodrigo Borgia was an actual fucking person. The events in fucking Assassin's Creed 1, they happened in history. And that's the thing, is like, it's always been this Forrest Gump conspiracy thing backdrop behind these historical events. Which probably you don't know what I'm talking about with Forrest Gump. Go watch that movie, because it's amazing. But just for the sake of the video, I'll explain. In Forrest Gump, you have this character named Forrest Gump who's involved in like a lot of these things. So like, he's on TV being thanked by the president, when in real life it's another soldier that actually existed. There's like a thing where, there's the whole thing with like the speech at Washington D.C. where like a soldier and a hippie hug, and it's actually in the movie it's a soldier and a regular soldier and his like sister who hug in history. So that's what I mean by like Forrest Gump, is like, just these assassins are part of this backdrop while these events are happening, yada yada yada. But let's go ahead and do, so the thing is like, a lot of shit in history was inaccurate in the game. Like, there were gates where there wasn't supposed to be gates. These gates specifically are for like religious shrines and stuff like that, and for some fucking reason they're like on the out backdrops of like, they're like at the entrances of villages and shit. That's not where they're supposed to be. Speaking of gates, let's go with another cultural insensitivity instead of inaccuracy. They actually made a figure with the 2 characters in the game that very closely modeled a gate that was blown up during the Hiroshima bombings, that still stands to this day and is left alone as a historical site. I'm not even gonna say it because you guys who watch this are already gonna know. Caused a lot of shit. But anyway, so yeah, there's just like that's the only example I can think of historical inaccuracies. Obviously, there's probably a fuck ton more that I'm not even remembering correctly. But I wouldn't be surprised if I were to Google search historical inaccuracies and shadows and have a novel laid out before me. That's just how fucking bad it was, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the profiteering of a black man's not so well documented history that requires a bit of explanation. Yasuke is a not so well known figure, but he is a known figure to a lot of Japanese people. The reason he is so, you know, so known is because he's actually the only black man in ancient Japan. His skin was actually so strange that they paraded him to the shogun. And I'm not even fucking kidding about that. They actually paraded his ass along a path to onlookers and directly presented him to the shogun at the time. The problem here is that there's not much else said except the shogun literally makes him his aide, gives him like a small blade, and gives him the name Yasuke. And he literally only makes him his aide as a way to show other countries, like other like places in Japan, like, hey, look at this black person I got. He looks cool, right? Like literally just as a showpiece. Yasuke was literally just a showpiece for the shogun. Like, look at this guy's skin. Look at this guy's skin. It's cool, right? Guys, don't you think this is cool? Like that's literally what's his thing. Like that's the only reason he made him his aide. It's fucked up, yes, but that's literally the historical reason why Yasuke was the aide of the shogun was his skin color. Because Japanese people had never seen a black man up to that point, so it made sense from a like power perspective and a wealth perspective to be like, look at this exotic thing I got. And I'm not calling Yasuke a fucking thing to be a dick or a racist. That's literally the reason. Look at this exotic person. So, yeah, there's not much about him in Japanese history. It's sort of the reason why a lot of media, like video games, sort of just takes, takes liberties with him. Like he's actually in a lot of other games besides Shadows, and like fighting and like samurai fighting games, and like it's like I'm pretty sure he's in Onimusha, and he's like a supernatural boss fight character. But here's the thing: it's like in those other games, they don't really rely on historical accuracy. They just don't. It's not a. It's not a priority. It's literally the rule of cool. Look at this black samurai dude. Look at him wield two katanas like they're fucking nothing. Oh wait, no, he can actually wield four katanas. Woo! Like in both hands. The rule of cool. That's really literally what Yasuke is usually used for in these types of video games. But when it comes to Assassin's Creed, you have the thing is like historically accurate. That's the thing. The Assassin's Creed 3, all the Revolutionary War battles happen in that game happen in real life. Assassin's Creed 2, all the events happen in that game happen in real life. The backdrop is the Assassin versus Templar War that takes place in, ironically enough, the shadows. Pun not intended. So, and the thing is, all the protagonists of Assassin's Creed have been made up protagonists. They've been made up by a person. Like, Ezio didn't exist, Altair did not exist, Connor didn't exist, Edward didn't exist. You know? So, why do a real person? Here's the thing. I fully believe, even to this day, that some intern at Ubisoft just looked up Black Samurai and got a hit, and they're like, look at this dude. This will fit with our woke LGBTQ shit just fine. Because I can always think of no reason. Because here's the other thing that makes me believe that. The other protagonist is a made up character. She's like a Asian girl boss ninja. The reason I say she's a girl boss is because she's like this fucking leader of this ninja clan, despite the fact that that's not even a thing. Ninjas literally were just like farmers who would use their like implements to scare like soldiers. There was no ninjas really. They would wear like purple clothes to, be stealthy. And then they would just use like their like the scythe they used to like cut off like wheat and like rice to harvest, and use those. Like the kunai, literally just spikes that you would use to anchor shit with. And it's also the reason why there's like rope wrapped around it. The handle is because that makes it seem like more of a weapon, and it makes it easier to wield. But they're literally just something you would anchor into the ground to hold shit up. Like if I were to get a tent spike that had like a hole at the top, I could just wrap something around it, and then I've got a kunai. That's essentially the thing back in the day. So that ninjas weren't even a thing back then. So again, my question is this: if you have the girl boss character as a made up character, why the fuck did you go with the real person for the Black Samurai? Doesn't really make much sense. And here's the thing: I legitimately think they wanted to put a Black Samurai character. They came to the conclusion they couldn't, and then they found Yasuke. And instead of just going, well, we can't use a real character because that's going to cause so much controversy to do so. And it just wouldn't make sense. No, they don't do that. They go, okay, cool, we have our excuse. We have our woke excuse to use. Because to this day, I still don't know why the fuck they even went that far. Why they didn't just make an Asian character, an Asian samurai that didn't need to be two protagonists. Because from what I hear, the whole point was to do like a round 2 of like the other Assassin's Creed game had 2 protagonists, and they fucked up that in that game, and so they wanted to try to do it again here, but they didn't really do anything different. Like, there's still points in the game where you have to go through as a certain character. And the characters meet up anyway. And they work together, and so then you just switch between the two of them at will, so your choice doesn't even fucking matter at that point. That's from what I've heard. I might be wrong, but it would make sense. Yeah. And another thing is, like, the whole history of Yasuke that most people think they know is fake. And it's fake because the author of the book that made it completely made it up. And the only reason he didn't get caught until now is because in Japan, when he published the book, he marked it as fiction. whereas everywhere else he marked it as nonfiction. This was so he could actually. This is so he could publish his book of inaccuracies without the Japanese Historical Society getting wind of it. Which, once this game came out, they got wind of it and they took away his credentials. He is no longer allowed to write, study, or do anything of the sort when it comes to Japanese history. So, yeah. So, that was a pretty long one, but we're not done yet. Because I gotta talk about the other. So, I think earlier in this video, I believe I said I wanted 2 games set in specific places. The first one is one I just talked about. The second one is the Civil War one. So, recently it's come to my attention that there was going to be a Civil War game set in Assassin's Creed. There's going to be a post-Civil War game where you played as a freed black slave killing KKK members as they emerged. Not only do I think this is a stupid idea, but literally, you could just make the game in the Civil War. Because the only reason, like, a lot of people are saying, like, this game set in this post-Civil War would have been a huge mess. I agree. I think in today's political climate, there's nothing wrong, by the way, with killing racists in games. That's like half the villains in Assassin's Creed, to be fair. Like, let's be honest here. They're either, like, somewhat sexist, racist, or, But usually the reason why you kill them is because they're Templars, they're trying to fuck people's days up, and so you kill them for the greater good. You don't kill them because of the racism or the sexism or whatever. You do them because they're your enemies. But here, I think the creators would not have been able to help themselves as to paint white people in a supremely bad light. Honestly, I have no problem with killing KKK members, but with how Shadows turned out, I wouldn't have been surprised if the assassin, was someone who just hated all white people regardless. Then it wouldn't have even mattered if they were nice, if they were fellow assassins. He would just been, I guarantee one of the lines in the game would have been, "I hate white people, man." Also, he probably would have been gay. Let's get that out of the way. Because Yasuke has like one straight relationship, and he has like 5 gay ones, including one with a non-binary character. So, and they canceled this game because of the political climate and because of the just horrible sales of Shadows. I think legitimately a game set in the Civil War would work. You already have the freed black slave assassin. You could have him work on behalf of the Union. And you could kill Confederates and free the slaves in the South. And maybe start up a resistance group like the fucking Patriot style. That's another great movie, by the way. You start a resistance group, the Patriot style, and you could actually create a chapter of the assassins in the South made up almost entirely of like white sympathizers that sympathize towards black people and like freed slaves. I think that idea is fantastic. But where I think it's fantastic is where I don't think Ubisoft would be the ones to do it now. It is their IP. Let's not get that fucked up. But I don't think they would be able to do it in a absolutely non-biased way. Keep in mind, Veilguard had the same fucking problem with BioWare. They made all the villains white for no reason. They put in a lot of trans shit that completely ruined the story. And even at times being so fucking like uncomfortable. It was crazy. Like the whole Kabadon thing with fucking Tosh, where she puts her hand against the fucking wall and like traps you against it, and is like, "Oh, think about us having sex." Like it's just creepy. It's weird. It's creepy and weird. The fact that so much was given to that, and it sort of woke people up as to where gaming was heading. I think because Shadows is so much less than that, yet it has a lot of the same beats. People. So that's the thing. I don't think Ubisoft will be able to make a game, Assassin's Creed game set in a civil war, with an unbiased opinion. They're always going to be biased, from this point on, in my opinion, because there's no way they could do it without making the Templars, who are probably going to be white in that case, not seem like complete fucking racist fucks, which of course they are. But something you got to understand is that the Templars are not slavers because they want to be. They are slavers because they don't believe in free will. And the reason they don't believe in free will is because they think it impedes people. You know, it impedes peace throughout the world. It's the reason why in the future, with like Desmond and all that shit, they're planning on using a piece of Eden and putting it inside of a satellite and basically taking over the minds of every person in the world so that they don't have to think, they don't have to do anything except what they're told. And that's the thing, is like most of the slavers in Assassin's Creed that you do kill, that you do encounter, are not doing it because they fucking want to. They're doing it because it is what they believe. This is the way everybody should be. It's not just black people, it should be white people, Asian people, all that. They are enslaving these people to basically free them from free will. And that's what the Templars in these games believe. They believed it when it was like Assassin's Creed 1, they believed it when it was Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, Revelations 3, Rogue, all of them. That is basically the Templar creed. They do not. Free will stands in the way of world peace. Therefore, these Templars who are slavers, legitimately think they are doing these African people a favor by enslaving them. They actually think it's for the good of the whole world that they are doing this. It's not for a racist reason. They don't think them lesser. It is legitimately their belief that they are doing them a favor by taking away their right to free will. And again, that's why I don't think Ubisoft would be able to do an unbiased take on this, because obviously that mentality is fucked up. But in a weird sort of way, it fits with what the Templars are about. They want to enslave everybody, so simply enslaving a group of people, regardless of their skin color, just makes sense. So that's why I don't think Ubisoft would be able to do a game in the Civil War, is because their main villains would have to basically all make racist. Like, there's no way they wouldn't be able to. And that's not why the Templars do this shit. Okay, and again, there's a lot of activists that are in the game industry and thankfully are being fired. But the point still stands. I don't think you'd be able to do an unbiased take on this. Especially in this political climate. So I understand why they canceled one during the post-Civil War, but I definitely think a Civil War one should still be considered with an unbiased crew of developers, ones who would be able to know about what the Assassins stand for, what the Templars stand for, and do a completely unbiased take on the Civil War. Until then, I think they should stay as far away from the subject as absolutely possible. And they definitely should not be allowed to hold the IP, in my opinion. They may create it, but they have misused it to the point where it needs to go to another company. another group of developers that are able to make these games as unbiased as possible. That was a long one. That was a really long one, actually. Definitely longer than the other one I made that I got all wrong. But luckily I did do my research this time, so hey. We all make mistakes. I admit them to you guys because I want you to realize that when I make these videos, they ain't just one take. They can sometimes take 2 or 3 takes, or in the case of the Reddit Rants video, 15. But ultimately what you guys are going to get is a quality video done on a low quality phone with at least a decent amount of research done on the subject matter. But that's going to be it for right now. I hope you guys had a great time watching this, whether you're doing it day or night. If you liked it, please leave a like on the video, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell. And if you didn't like it, go ahead and comment below why. I'm always looking for criticism, and I'm always looking for praise. But until then, guys, I'll see you in the next one, and you guys have a wonderful, wonderful life. Bye-bye.